A veteran of the Icelandic music scene and with a wealth of experience from professional theater, he teaches songwriting to serious musicians who want to improve their skills and write better songs. So he's going to teach us about the secret tool for successful songwriting. And without further ado, here is Eyvindur Karlsson.
Yeah, thanks.
Take it away.
Thank you. I want to talk about goal setting, especially as it pertains to songwriters. But these are very powerful tools that you can use for any aspect of your life. And I happen to think that setting goals wherever you are in your journey as an artist, as a songwriter, and I guess without taking it too far, as a person, I just think it's such a powerful way to get closer to where you want to go in life and achieve your dreams and all of that. And so I'm pretty passionate about this subject, and I'm very excited. And I thank you so much for having me. And I'm very excited to talk about this with you. So first of all, Michael, thank you very much for that lovely introduction, by the way, Michael. But like you said, I'm a singer-songwriter from Iceland. I've been writing music and performing professionally for about 20 years. I've written songs for award-winning musicals, and these days I'm doing a lot of coaching for songwriters. I have a songwriting podcast called the Strong Writing Podcast. So if you're in the mood for listening to some musings about, and actually I think the confusion, Michael, is that there was an episode of the podcast which is called The Secret Tool for Successful Songwriting, where I had a great guy on. His name is Ivan Bodley, and I highly recommend that you go check that out because it's a very interesting talk. And I'm also an actor. I'm a director. I love American football. I'm ashamed to say I'm not a Cowboys fan, but that's not my fault.
Who's your team?
It's the Titans, because the only time I've ever gone to see a game was when I was in Nashville and I went to see the Titans. And so that's what I have to do. So that's a little bit about me, and that's me on stage there with my bass player behind me, as you can see. So, like I said, I think goals are a key thing. And by the way, if you have something to write, if you have to take notes with, I do recommend that, because there is some practical stuff in here. So I think setting goals is it's like having a treasure map. A goal is like a beacon, and if the goal is set up properly, it's not only the X on the map, it's also the navigation that gets you there. And that's so important, especially I think for creative people, because it's very easy to get scatterbrained and to jump from one thing to the other, and to kind of lose your way when it comes to creating things. And it doesn't matter. I've done a lot of different things, as you saw on the previous slide, and I've certainly fallen victim to just getting lost in whatever excites me at the time, whether that's writing novels or writing songs or performing or directing or whatever it is. And goal setting has really helped me to stay on course and see things through and achieve things that otherwise I would never have been able to achieve. And that's why I think, like I say on the slide, a goal is a map to reach your dreams. And again, it's otherwise known as a plan, because without a goal, it's very hard to plan things. But not all goals are created equal. And I think it's possibly the most important thing about setting goals is to make sure that you have the right goal. And what I mean by that is that we're all at different stages in our lives. We have different priorities. We have different backgrounds, different paths in lives, different values. And if you set a goal that's not right for where you are at right now in your life, and what the stage of life you're in, the direction you want to be headed with your priorities, then that goal will not work for you. It might work perfectly for the next person, but it won't work for you. And I use myself as an example. I could also use, if anybody out there wants to tell me about a goal they have or a dream they have, I could do that, but I usually use myself. If somebody puts it in the chat, I can talk about that. But my goal is, at this point, I have several. I'm releasing an album soon and things like that, so short-term goals. But my long-term goal is to get more into music licensing. Like I said, I've spent years and years writing music for theater, but now I kind of want to take some of that, because the way theater music works is that you use it in a show and then that show is gone and it's just sitting around. So I have a lot of songs that I can rework into things that I could possibly get placed in TV or movies or video games or whatever the case may be, or get in front of other artists. So that's kind of the goal that I'm focusing on right now, and that's a good goal for me at the place I'm at in my life right now. It wouldn't make sense for me to set a goal to do a tour of Europe, because at the moment I have two kids. They're not very young anymore. They're 12 and 14 years old, but I do want to spend as much time with them as I can. And so, going out for 3 months or whatever it might be at this point in time is not the best goal for me. But working from home, creating music in my home studio and trying to get that in front of music supervisors is the perfect goal for my stage in life. So, knowing what the right goal for you is half the battle. And I think that it's a process to figure that out. When I coach songwriters, that's the first step usually, is to really dig deep, do an intense session where you really think about not just your next year, but your next 5 years, your next 10 years, where you want to be when you retire, whatever it is, and go from there, because you have to be headed in the right direction, in my opinion. So this is we could do a whole talk just on this, how you find your right goal. But I think it's just very important that you start, if you want to set a goal, start by figuring out, okay, where do I actually want to be headed with my art and with my songwriting and my career. But then once you have what you want to achieve, then you have to set what's called smarter goals. And if you've read anything about goal setting, you've probably heard about SMART goals. That's a very popular term, SMART goals. Smarter goals is a slight update. I didn't come up with this. This comes from a guy named Michael Hyatt, who's a really clever productivity and guru in business and things like that. And it's an acronym that stands for specific, measurable, actionable, relevant, time-based, exciting, and risky. And so that's a framework to measure your goals by and update them if need be, that will help you to make sure that the way you're framing your goals is doable. And without this, it's very easy to set a goal that's not really achievable or not really set up for success. And I'm going to go through each of these in turn and talk about how you apply this to whatever goal you want to set. So first of all, the goal needs to be specific. And what I mean by that is that if the goal is just a vague thing, then it's not really a goal. If you say, I want to write songs, that's not a goal. That's just an aspiration. That's not specific. if you say I want to write more songs this year than I wrote last year, then that's a much more specific goal. Still not perfect, but it is specific. And the more specific you can make your goal, the better. And of course, a lot of the later steps in this framework are geared towards making the goal more specific. But it is very vital to start with something that's not too vague. And if you think that it might be, then you need to think about it and think, okay, how can I make this more specific? And there are two categories of goals. One is a habit goal, and the other is an achievement goal. And those work in very different ways, but they're both equally useful. So a habit goal is just setting up a habit to do something every day, usually. So you could say, I want to write or work on songwriting every day for a certain amount of time or whatever. So that's a habit goal. An achievement goal is, I want to release an album. That's an achievement goal. I want to get a certain amount of songs recorded, or I want to write 10 songs in this period of time. That would be an achievement goal. So that's another way to make it more specific, is to really be clear on whether you're working on a habit or an achievement. So that's a good way to make sure that it's specific enough. So then it needs to be measurable. You need numbers to quantify your goal, because if you don't have a way to measure, then you can't judge whether you've been successful in reaching your goal or not. So that's why, again, it needs to be specific. Writing more songs is not measurable. But if you set a number to it, if you say, I want to write 20 songs over the next 3 months, that's a measurable goal, and you either reach it or you don't, or maybe you surpass it. And like I said, I'm trying to get into music licensing. And so a goal that I set was, I'm going to get a certain number. I originally started with 100 songs. Over the next year, I'm going to get 100 songs into music libraries. So that's a measurable goal. And I can very easily say, a year from now, I can say, well, how many did I get in? Did I reach the 100? Did I surpass it, or didn't I? So it's very important to do that. For habit goals, again, that's usually kind of built in. If you say, I'm going to set aside an hour every day to work on my music, then that's automatically, then are you doing it every day? You need to specify how long you're going to do it. So I'm going to do it for 3 months. If you do it every day, then you've met it. If you don't do it every day, then obviously you've failed, but obviously you will be better off than if you hadn't done it. So having a goal be measurable is key in order to be able to get there, and in order to be able to judge how well you did, and that will inform your next goal. The goal needs to be actionable. There need to be very clear action steps built into the goal. So when you look at your goal, you should be able to write down at least the first 3 or 4 steps you need to take in order to achieve the goal. So let's say you had a goal that you wanted to go on a tour of Europe. Then, that would obviously not be a 3-month goal. You need to plan that a lot further out. So let's say you would set a goal that, okay, 3 months from now, I'm going to have next year's tour booked. And then you would need to say, okay, the first action step needs to be, getting a booking agent, getting in touch with booking agents, or getting in touch with venues, or whatever the case may be. And then the next action step needs to be marketing in that area, and so on. And for me, getting songs into music libraries, the first step is researching which music libraries are good and which one aren't. And then the step is, okay, so I need to figure out how many songs per week I need to get into music libraries to stay on track to get this done, and so on. So building in action steps to making sure that you can just take the goal and break it down into, this is what I need to accomplish in the first week and the second week and so on. It's very important, and that can be a very tricky part of this whole process. But at the same time, when you've done that, even the biggest, scariest goal is going to be a lot more manageable, because it's just a series of steps, and it's like a blueprint. You just follow it, and then eventually you'll get there. So it's the basis of the plan, essentially. This is the way you start to structure this as a plan, as opposed to just a dream. Like I said before, the goal needs to be relevant for where you are at this stage in your life. So I've kind of gone over that already, but it bears repeating that a goal you need to have the right goal at the right time, depending on where you are in life. So I'm not going to, and this slide, I put that picture there because it's not relevant to anything in the slide. It's just completely irrelevant. But anyway, that's, it's again, it's so important that the goal is something, because it's very hard to get excited about something and motivated if it's something that doesn't matter to you at this point in time. Now, it's very important to have a timeline, because a goal without a timeline is just a dream. So
Thank you.
Again, if you set a habit goal, if you say, I'm going to do this or that, and again, it could be working on songwriting, it could be meditation, it could be jogging, whatever the case may be. If it's a habit goal, there needs to be a time frame. So I'm going to do this every day for 1 month, or for 3 months, or for 9 months, or whatever it is. 3 months is usually the best amount of time to do this. I find that if you have an annual goal, breaking it down into quarterly goals just seems to work. The human brain seems to deal very well with the number 3. So 3 months, 3 weeks, doing things in threes just seems to work. And if it's an achievement goal, then again, you want to set a deadline, because if you say, I'm going to release an album, or I'm going to write a musical, or whatever it is, and you don't set a deadline, then there's nothing driving you towards actually doing it. So a time frame is such a key aspect of getting anything done. And I just think that if you are serious about reaching your goal, there needs to be a deadline. There needs to be a time frame. So super important. And also, again, if it's a habit goal, then I also think it's important. A lot of people I work with set the goal of spending an hour every day on music, and making sure that you specify how long you're going to spend is also another time factor that's important. And maybe not everybody has an hour, so maybe it's 30 minutes, but you do that every day. It's going to turn into a habit. It's going to make songwriting automatic, which just makes everything happen much easier. So those are examples of time frames that you can attach to your goals. Now, that's a SMART framework, and then the ER stands for exciting and risky, and that's actually my favorite part of this whole thing, because making sure that a goal excites you, I think, is a very underrated thing. Because if you're not excited about it, then why would you do it? But I certainly, I've done it myself. I've set goals that I wasn't particularly excited about. I knew it was something that I should be doing, but it just didn't excite me, and then it didn't motivate me, and so I didn't reach those goals. But if the goal is really excited, it's much, much likelier that you'll stay the course and get things done. And so a very good question to ask yourself if you're in the process of setting a goal, whatever area of life you're setting that goal in, is just, does this excite me? When I think about the results from this, when I think about what my life will be like once I've achieved this goal, does that excite me? Maybe the activity itself or getting there doesn't excite you, but being there does, and that is vital if you want to have a good shot at reaching it, because without getting excited, you're not going to be motivated. So very, very important to make sure you're excited about whatever it is you want to achieve. And last but not least, a goal should be risky. It should stretch your boundaries. It should force you out of your comfort zone. I always say that the comfort zone is the worst place you can possibly be, because then you're not evolving, you're not growing as a person. And if a goal doesn't stretch your boundaries, then first of all, it's not really worth it. And second, it's harder to get excited about. And it's, why even bother? But if you set a goal that's just slightly bigger than you think you're capable of, not too big, because if it's just ridiculous, then you're not even going to try. But if you sort of think, okay, so what's the absolute maximum I can possibly do, and then go a little bit higher, that's going to be more exciting. And the best part is, it's going to push you further than it otherwise would. And like the goal that I talked about for me before, which is getting 100 songs into music libraries. When I examined that goal again and I asked, is it risky enough? I realized that it wasn't, because if I take the songs that I have already got recorded and the ones that are in various demo stages and these are mostly theater songs that I've just sort of never recorded, but they're lying around and they're ready to go. And I thought, okay, so I take all those that I'm really happy with and that I can finish pretty quickly. I've got at least 50 that I can get out very quickly. And so then it's just 50 songs that are left. And I've probably got another 30 that are sort of, just need a bit of work to be presentable. So 100 songs is way too easy for me. So then I opted to 200, and I thought that's pretty crazy to do that in a year. But the thing is, if I fail, if I don't reach 200, I might reach 150, and that's 50 more than my original goal. So even if I don't reach that risky big goal, I will still do better than if I set a safe goal. So in my opinion, a risky goal, it's better to fail a risky goal than to reach a safe goal. And that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. So those are the smarter items, the specific, measurable, actionable, relevant, time-keyed, exciting, and risky. Now, like I said, it's important to know what goal to set, and I think it's by the way, I think it's important to set goals in every area of your life, and usually it's best, again, we think we deal best with groups of 3, and so I think that about 3 goals at a time is the right amount, or 2 or 3, because you don't want to spread your attention too far out. And I, again, usually break things down into quarters, but you can certainly set monthly goals or even annual goals or whatever. I like to set annual goals and then break them down into quarters. And then, of course, it's just a matter of figuring out, okay, so where am I at right now? What do I want to improve in my songwriting, in my profession, in my family life, in my health, whatever it is, and then just figure out, okay, so then what is the best area for me to take action in now, and set a goal around that. And so that's
Did we lose him?
I don't know.
Yes, we did. He's frozen.
Yes, he is frozen. Well, it's cold.
On whatever you want to improve on in your
Oh.
songwriting.
He's back.
Okay.
Hey, so somebody tell him.
We
Yeah,
lost
we-
you. We lost you for about.
We lost you for a
No,
minute.
that last point you were trying to make, your screen froze up.
Oh, okay. Oh, that was the thing. Okay, I thought it was just the video. All right. Yeah. Well, so what I was saying is there's a tool that I put together on my website, strongwriting.net, where you can answer a few simple questions, and it'll make a great suggestion on what your next step should be in improving whatever it is you might want to improve in your songwriting journey. So that's a great thing that I recommend that you do, and check out the website, and that's also where you'll find the podcast and everything. So I hope that's been helpful, and if there are any questions about any of this, I would be more than happy to answer anything you want to throw at me.
Oh, it's been very good. Boy, you sound like you're a very prolific songwriter.
Let's unshare if you don't need to do that anymore.
Yeah. Yep. No, new share. That's not what I meant to do. How do I? Hang on. I'm sure I can figure this out. I
it'll
can just
say
pause
stop.
share. Ah, there you go.
Stop share.
Yeah. Okay.
There it is.
Okay. No, I was just saying you sound like a very prolific songwriter. You must be very good at goal setting. So
Yeah.
you actually reached your goal of getting the 150 into.
Oh, that's my current goal.
Oh, you're current. Okay, you're still working.
Yeah.
Well, that's good.
I'm still working on that. I've gotten quite a few up, but not quite there. But I just set this goal like a month ago, so still working on that one.
So while we're talking about licensing, I could mention that you can take all of your songs and go back to the recording area and add a new track and do an instrumental melody over them. And that will make them more licensable.
Yeah.
So
Say that again?
if you've got 100 songs, you can immediately have 200 songs by putting a melody on some of those that just have vocal tracks on them.
Yeah. Oh, now I'm gonna have to say 400 songs.
Yeah. But those melodic, those instrumentals are more licensable.
Yeah.
Your ones with vocals. So
Yeah.
also some of our people from Dallas Songwriters, one of our partners is Broad Jam. Have you ever heard of Broad Jam?
I don't think so.
They have licensing opportunities on their website. You can they use their website as a hosting site and put your
Okay.
songs up and then submit to film and TV through their
All right.
website.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
a lot of our
And they-
people are doing
They
that.
have people from all over the world, I'm sure.
Oh yeah. Yeah, they're international.
Broad Jam.
Yeah. I'm gonna write that down. Actually.
Yeah, you need to look up Broad Jam and see if they can be of help to you. 'Cause they're
Yeah.
what they do. Quite good. Quite good.
Yeah.
So what kind of songs do you like to write? Well, you have any particular style or genre or?
Sure. Hang on, I'm just gonna write this down so I don't forget. Broad Jam. It's Americana mostly. Although in the theater, obviously it's all over the place. It's whatever the scene demands, which is great because that's, again, I love to step out of the comfort zone, and so like when I'm in my comfort zone, then I'm writing blues and country and that sort of stuff. So being pushed outside the comfort zone to write show tunes or cabaret things is excellent. But most of my the stuff that I write for myself is that sort of folk rock, Americana type stuff.
Well, I hate to put you on the spot, but I'd sure like to know what that secret tool was.
Oh, it's actually pretty simple. It's it's just a principle that Ivan Bodley, he's a great bass player from New York. He just walked me through this thing, and it's just a framework that you can use to improve your improvisations and your compositions. And it's theme variation. So if, like he explained it, he's, if you think Beethoven's Fifth Symphony, so it's da 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 dum, it's a theme, da 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 dum, theme again, and then da 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 da, you get the variation. And after my mind was just blown when he was talking about this, because I realized this is exactly how I write. I put down like a theme, and a variation, but I had never thought of it as anything else than just, I'm not going to repeat it 3 times. I'm going to do something different for the 3rd time. And so apparently this is just the way, again, our brain deals in 3s. And so the 3rd time is different, and that just makes the brain love the song. And since he told me this, every time I hear a song, I'm like, yep, there it is. And so now it's made me listen to music in a different way. But it's very helpful that now that I know it, I'm like, oh, okay, so I can use this methodically now and not just sort of go with my intuition on it.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's kind of like songwriting structure, where you might write 2 verses and then a bridge, or some other.
Exactly. Yeah. So
song.
it's like micro and macro. It applies to all kinds of different things.
Yeah, and it is very good. And a lot of songwriters fail to see that. They have songs that are all verses, and they don't realize that there needs to be a breakup. Now sometimes those things work.
Yeah. I mean, well, I've certainly written those songs, but although, I mean, I was just actually, I was thinking about this because there's a song that I wrote that's basically 4 verses. But then I looked at the structure of the verses, and you can find this in there. So it's like there's a part of the verse that's like 4 measures, and then you get 2 measures that are different, and then you get a resolve. So it's kind of the same thing. It's just even though the structure is not verse bridge, it's still within the verses that is the structure. So
yes,
so I think
so you're talking about the phrasing within the verses. Like if you analyze a current pop song, it will probably have 4 or 5 phrases, and the rest of them musical phrases, melodic phrases. Not talking about lyric. I'm just talking about a melodic phrase. And the whole song, it will have 4 or 5 melodic phrases. The rest of it is the variation that you're talking about.
Yeah.
So it'll be the same phrase repeated over and over, and then when it gets boring, it's got the variation on the end of it. And then the next phrase comes, and it'll get repeated and repeated until it's boring, and then it gets a variation, and then the next phrase. So, within these 2 verses, a chorus, and a bridge, you've probably got 4 complete melodic phrases, and which are varied by maybe 2 or 3 notes at the end of the line, or could be varied by starting at a different place. Because if you like look at a song Unforgettable, that's what you are, then the next line is the same melodic phrase. It just starts a different place, but it's the same intervals. So it's the same phrase. Unforgettable, though near are far. That's exactly the same melodic phrase. It just starts at a different place. And then the next one would be your second phrase musical phrase. That's why, darling, it's incredible. The next line, the fourth line, is a repeat of the second phrase, but starting in a different place. It starts down lower. So unforgettable. And then the last line is the third melodic phrase. So you've got 3 melodic phrases in that line.
Yeah.
And then they're just repeated for that verse.
Right. Or you could also you could frame it as the first 2 lines being theme, the second 2 lines being theme, and then the third one being variation. It depends on how you look at. I mean, because yeah. Anyway, but you know, it was a fantastic talk, and that was yeah. If you go to my website, you'll find that episode where I talked about this with Ivan, and he went through all of music history. He said you'll find it in classical music, you'll find it in early show tunes, you'll find it in vaudeville, you'll find it everywhere. You know, this this structure.
Mm-hmm. That probably was a great lecture.
No,
your website address so we can.
It's strongwriting.net.
Songwriting.
I have that in the newsletter that I sent out.
Okay,
that
songwriting.
link is in our newsletter.
Okay, so we can be sure to. Everybody can write that down.
Yeah, I can actually hang on. I can even find out where it is. The number of the episode. I think it was number 12.
We'd like to look at the other stuff too, so that's great.
Sure. Yeah. No, it was 11 probably. So yeah. I mean, yeah. If you just type in strongwriting.net, then you scroll down a little bit, and that's where you'll find the links to the podcast episodes.
Mm-hmm.
But otherwise, it's episode 11. So, and of course, I mean, you can find the podcast anywhere, you know, and it's on YouTube as well, and you know, I don't know, Spotify and Apple Music or Apple Podcasts and all of that stuff.
Well, good. Well, does anybody else have any questions or comments? Anything in particular? I guess this group is a quick study.
Yeah, I guess. Or I'm a great teacher. I'm going to go with that. Yeah.